I was driving through a parking lot the other day, and this is a business area, and there's like a massage place and a hair place and crumble cookie. And so I'm driving through the parking lot, and there's parked cars on the right and parked on the left. I'm probably driving 100 feet. And as I had turned in, there was this lady who was walking down the parking lot where the cars drive. And I ended up following her for probably 50 to 75 feet because she was literally walking down the middle of where the cars drive. And she was totally, at least as far as I could tell, totally unaware that I was there driving behind her. So then she eventually, when we get to the far end of the parking lot and about to cross the road, she moves off to the left across the street as well. So then I was in need of making a left-hand turn. So I'm turning left, and now she walks across in front of me. And again, totally oblivious that I was even there. She had some sort of hood on her coat up. And to the best of my knowledge, she had no idea that I was there. I easily could have just run into her if I wasn't paying any attention. Then after that, I'm driving home. So it's a few minutes later after this parking lot incident. And there's this place on the road where I live where there's a crosswalk, but with the crosswalk, the cars only stop when there's the stoplights activated because there's a stoplight associated with the crosswalk. This guy steps out in front of me, just didn't even look. He just steps out in front of me. Thankfully, he did it far enough away that I didn't have to slam on the brakes. And so I just slowed down and let him pass. And then I looked at the crosswalk in case there was something that I missed. And no, the crosswalk was red. He just decided he's just going to walk out in front of me. So what's all this got to do with my mind on my money and my money on my mind? It's awareness. I was recently reading an article, and this man is an advisor. It was actually a video, now I think about it. And this particular advisor works with a lot of federal employees. And so the 401k plan for federal employees is called the Thrift Savings Plan, TSP. And so he was talking about TSP millionaires. And so whenever he encounters them, he asks them what they did. And one very common element to those that are TSP millionaires is that they never looked at their account statements, which is fascinating to me. So meaning they got their quarterly statements, their annual statements, and they never looked at it. They just set up their automatic contributions and they put their head down and worked for 40 years or whatever it was. And then at some point when they were nearing retirement, they actually took a look, and then they were pleasantly surprised to find out that they had more than $1 million in their account. So I'm curious to get the thoughts on anybody watching this. Do you agree with that approach, or do you disagree with that approach? I agree that looking too frequently can be a distraction and can be a problem. So there are those, especially retirees who don't have a purpose. There isn't something to occupy their time, that they're just sitting and watching the TV all day and hearing the doom and gloom, or reading all day about doom and gloom and watching the market go up and down. And so that can really stress them out. So I can certainly see the other side of things, of looking at the market and looking at my account balance too frequently, and it being a distraction to stress me out. And then I want to make all these changes instead of just kind of periodically making changes. I think with this thrift savings plan millionaire thing of the people who don't even look at it, I would argue they would be more effective if they did look at it at least yearly, and even more effective if they looked at it yearly with an advisor. And this is why. That would allow them to see that they're doing well and that they're on the path to do just fine and have a great account balance whenever it is that they choose to retire, and be able to have the lifestyle that they wish to have in retirement. And along the way, on the path to that retirement, they'd be able to enjoy it more. They wouldn't have to be so stressed about money. They could do things with their family, their grandchildren. They could take a vacation. They could go out to eat. So it certainly does open the door for them maybe to spend a little more than they might, than possibly they should. But there has to be a balance here between just being so miserly and scrunching down every single dollar today, so that way someday down the road I can live my life, the last 10 to 20 years of my life. Because unfortunately, what I've seen many people work, they save, and then they get to be 65, 70 years old and they retire, and then their health falls apart and they die in 3 to 5 years. Well, what kind of life was that? They worked for 40, 45 years. They got a few years of life during retirement, and then they die. So I think it's better to have an awareness along the way, have a plan. I can look at a compound interest calculator and see how I'm doing, do a reasonable projection of what my account will be going forward. So I think it's better to look at things at least once a year, and I can see how I'm doing and that I'm on track. And I can use something simple like a compound interest calculator. And so let's say I started with nothing. And let's say I had a $40,000 a year job. So I'm going to put in 10%, 40,000 a year. So let's say 350 a month, or 4,000 a year, I meant to say. And let's say I only get 6%. I'm going to do that for 40 years. All right. So you can see, as in those first few years, especially like 20 years in, my account balance is what here? Let's say 22 years in, my account balance is around 200,000. That can be disappointing and frustrating that I've been saving, investing for 20 years, being very faithful and diligent, and I have $200,000. So on one hand, 200,000, quite a lot. On the other hand, it's easy to be discouraged, thinking, "Why, I've been doing this for 20 years and only got $200,000." But look at what happens the next 20 years is that, bam, it just, right? We get this, that's when the compounding kicks in and there becomes exponential growth. It just can take time for that to happen. And so this is the value of looking at it periodically, is that I can put the numbers that I have into a compound interest calculator. So I can say, well, what's my current balance and how much do I intend to put in each year? And what's that going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And I can see that curve. I can see that exponential growth. And that can help me relax and help me enjoy my life today, as well as enjoy my life in the future. So I recommend periodic review at least once a year, as opposed to this, put my head in the sand and just buy, hold, and pray and look at it when I'm 65 or whenever it is that I intend to retire. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So post your comments in the link below. And if you have an interest in any of this and you would like to do a free complimentary review of your situation, then click on the calendar link.